Welcome to everybody. My name is Susanna Paleari from the Institute on Sustainable Economic Growth, which is part of the National Research Council of Italy. My presentation of today is about the European Green Deal. So what I want to do is to describe how the European Green Deal and the related strategic package will affect the protection of EU seas and the blue economy. In first place, let's clarify what is the European Green Deal strategic framework. The European Green Deal was presented by the Commission in 2019 as the new EU growth strategy for an economy that is sustainable, cleaner, safer, and healthier. This strategic framework shaped by the European Green Deal has been completed by almost 20 policy documents which address all the environmental policy areas and all the economic sectors. In this slide, the orange arrows highlight the strategies that are most relevant to the marine environment and the maritime sector, namely the Climate Target Plan, which sets the objective of climate neutrality by 2050, the Strategy on Adaptation to Climate Change, the Strategy on Offshore Renewable Energy, the Strategy for a Sustainable and Smart Mobility, the Zero Pollution Action Plan for Air, Water and Soil, the Biodiversity Strategy, the Farm to Fork Strategy, which, along with the new Action Plan for Organic Production, addresses fishing and aquaculture, and the Circular Economy Action Plan. Most of the issues developed by these documents, which are relevant to the marine environment and the maritime sector, are recalled by a specific communication on a new approach for a sustainable blue economy in the EU. The first point of interest is that of offshore renewable energy. The Climate Target Plan sets the objective of climate neutrality by 2050 and, as an intermediate step, a 55% greenhouse gas emissions reduction objective compared to 1990 levels by 2030, including both emissions and removals. In order to achieve this challenging goal, it will be very important to improve energy efficiency and increase the use of renewable energy while decreasing that of fossil fuels in all the economic sectors. A significant role is to be played by offshore renewable energy, which includes ocean energy, wave and tidal, and offshore wind. Offshore renewable energy shall become a core component of Europe's energy system by 2050. To this end, we need to multiply the current capacity for offshore renewable energy fivefold and 30-fold, respectively, by 2030 and 2050. The Commission argues that such a significant change requires careful planning and good cooperation between all the stakeholders involved in order to ensure that this expansion is compatible with the protection of biodiversity and all the other uses of the maritime space, such as fishing and shipping. It also requires an adequate and stable legislative framework and investments and research efforts. In particular, investment needs by 2050 amount to almost 800 billion euros, two-thirds to fund the associated grid infrastructure and one-third for offshore generation. The development of offshore renewable energy will be counterbalanced by the projected reduction of fossil fuels use. According to the Climate Target Plan, indeed, oil and gas consumption should be reduced by more than 30% and 25% respectively compared to 2015 levels by 2030. And the EU is going to stop funding oil and gas projects at the end of 2021, cutting 2 billion euros of yearly investments. Another relevant contribution to climate neutrality is expected to come from the transport sector, including shipping, which should also support the implementation of the Zero Pollution Action Plan. Emissions from transport should decrease by 90% compared to 1990 levels by 2050. To this end, short sea shipping, along with transport by inland waterways, will have to increase by 50% by 2050, and we will need zero-emission ocean vessels and zero-emission ports. How can this be achieved? The most important measures planned by the Commission include in first place the extension of the emission trading system to cover maritime transport so that the related environmental costs are fully internalized. On the same line, the Energy Taxation Directive will be revised, and the Commission will closely look at current tax exemptions for maritime fuels. In general, the Commission will support the use of renewable and low-carbon fuels, including clean hydrogen. A specific strategy has been shaped to scale up the production of clean hydrogen, and transport, along with industry, represents a lead market for clean hydrogen, and this includes short sea shipping. Finally, the Commission plans to revise the Ship Source Pollution Directive to promote zero-emission ports. The marine environment will be deeply affected by the biodiversity strategy. The Commission intends to legally protect a minimum of 30% of EU sea area by 2030, which represents a plus 19% compared to current level. The Commission wants also to reduce the adverse impacts of fishing and extraction activities on sensitive species and habitats. To this end, national maritime special plans will have to cover all maritime sectors and activities. A new action plan to conserve fisheries resources will be adopted later this year to move towards more selective and less damaging fishing techniques. This shift will also be supported by the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund. A zero-tolerance approach will be adopted for illegal harvesting of marine resources, and the bycatch of species threatened with extinction shall also be significantly reduced so that these species can recover. The blue economy is expected to contribute to the achievement of further European Green Deal's objectives. As a contribution to climate adaptation, nature-based solutions will be developed on a large scale in coastal and marine areas and will be supported by adequate investments. The cost of inaction is estimated around 360 billion euros per year, only in terms of lost ecosystem services along EU coasts. Second, the blue economy is expected to contribute to climate mitigation. Seafood farming and algae may be an important source of alternative protein for a sustainable food system, as they generate a low-carbon footprint compared to animal proteins. The European Maritime and Fisheries Fund will provide targeted support for the algae and seafood industry. A dedicated initiative on algae will be launched in 2022, and marketing standards will be revised to encourage the uptake of sustainable fisheries and aquaculture products. The Commission also wants to halve by 2030 the overall EU sales of antimicrobials for farmed animals and in aquaculture, nutrient losses, and the use and risk of chemical pesticides. With regard to the circular economy, the Commission plans to reduce plastic litter at sea by 50% and microplastics released into the environment by 30%. Standards are being developed for the circular design of fishing gears, and other measures will be adopted to improve the standards for ship recycling and to ensure that the Commission offshore oil and gas platforms are environmentally sound managed. To conclude, this slide summarizes the expected impacts of the European Green Deal strategic framework on the maritime space and European seas. With regard to energy, we can expect a substantial increase in the supply of offshore renewable energy and a sensible reduction in the supply of oil and gas. As transport will be key to achieve carbon neutrality, shipping will be included in the EU emission trading system, and the Commission will propose measures to incentivize the use of cleaner vessels and to make our ports cleaner. The protection of marine biodiversity will be improved with an extension of protected sea areas and specific measures targeting illegal fishing and the bycatch of marine species. Seafood production is perceived as increasingly relevant to climate mitigation, but we also need to move towards sustainable aquaculture and reduce the use of chemicals such as antimicrobials. We also need to reduce plastic litter at sea and tackle the problem of microplastics. Finally, nature-based solutions will have to be developed on a large scale in marine and coastal areas because they can significantly contribute to climate adaptation. So thank you very much for your attention, and for any further question you can write me at this email address. Bye!